I just feel like I need to clarify that I haven't always looked like this.
You literally look stunning. What are you talking about? You're so pretty.
I
No, don't. I'm gonna jump straight into the story.
Can we just
Hi,
say I
26
am
to
ill?
life. This 26 is alive. Catherine's really pretty. We're not gonna talk about how she's gonna bring herself down.
Hello
If you say one
and
bad thing
welcome.
about yourself, I quit.
Okay, I was just saying I'm ill.
Okay, fine.
I am ill. Hi and welcome to our podcast.
26 to life. Where, after 26 years of friendship, we've been friends for longer than a life sentence.
So now we're making a podcast together with my
Yay.
favourite person in the entire world. I am Catherine.
I'm Rosie.
And we tell each other true crime stories from the UK that the other one hasn't heard, and we just spend all our time together, and it's great, and we love it.
I mean, we spend all of our time with each other on opposite sides of the country, but
Yeah, virtually
just
spend
small
all our time
details.
together.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
it's still great.
Yes.
Before we get started, this podcast contains difficult topics, so please think carefully about when you listen and make sure you're feeling up to it. Today's episode especially contains
Quite brutal murder, but that's...
murder.
Yeah.
And
Like,
can you also please go and follow us on all of our socials. We are 26 to life
everything.
underscore pod. 26 to life underscore pod on TikTok and Instagram, 26 to life pod on YouTube and Spotify. Please go and follow us on everything. It will
And chat to
make
us
our
as well.
year. And chat to us. I've been loving that. Okay.
What do you think of my reels recently? I mean, I know I've only done like 2 consistently, but yeah? You think
I like
okay?
them, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. I just
She's
want to get
so
more
good.
reach. There's like not, I just feel like we're not getting enough reach. I don't know why it's not blowing up. Like, more people should be excited about this.
The people who are listening are so nice and they love it. And yeah, so we'll get there. Don't worry.
Makes me so happy. It makes me
Yeah.
so happy.
Don't worry. One lady, she said, "This is the best podcast. I'm hooked." And I was like, "Oh, thanks."
Oh my gosh, that honestly it makes my heart like swell. It just makes
I
me
know,
so
because
happy.
I still can't get my head around the fact that somebody wants to listen to us.
Us, we're absolute lunatics, but people actually want to listen to us.
Idiots.
I don't even
Yeah.
want to listen to us. No, I'm kidding, I
No,
do.
my child definitely doesn't. Although actually, he loves listening to our podcast.
Oh, I love that.
Anyway,
Sweet baby boy.
let's do it.
Okay, so have you ever heard of Lound? Lound? The place called Lound?
No,
I think I'm saying that right. It's Lound, and I think
No.
that's how you pronounce it. But it's just outside of. It's in Lincolnshire. It's not far
Okay.
from Peterborough. About two
I
and a
know.
half hours north of London.
Yeah. No,
It's
those
a very.
places.
To be fair, it's a quiet village. They call it a hamlet, which is apparently. Do you know what a hamlet is?
Yeah, it's a teeny, teeny, tiny village with less than a certain amount of people.
But it's also it doesn't have a church, which is
Yeah.
apparently what makes a hamlet. I did not know that. You learn
Yeah.
something new every day. So it was a very quiet village. Everyone kind of knew each other, and one resident in particular in this small village was 50-year-old Alan Wood. He was very well known, very popular. Like I said, everyone knows everyone, so it was just like that nice small village kind of vibe. But people described him as like hardworking, a friendly man with loads of friends in the area. They never heard him say a bad word about anyone. Was just genuinely a true gentleman. Would do anything for anyone. But also that he was just like a nice, ordinary bloke, you know, just a normal guy. He had his own gardening business, so he was a gardener he worked at a gardening shop, but then he wanted more, so he started his own gardening business, and he was also a gardener at the local prison. But in 2006, he took a job at Sainsbury's just to supplement his income in the winter, because obviously there's not as much
Gardening in the
gardening
winter.
jobs in the winter.
Yeah.
So he would do the night shifts there, stacking shelves. But even there, like, everybody loved his company. Everybody enjoyed having Alan on their shift with him. Alan had been married, but to someone called Joanne. They called her Jo, but they separated in 2003. They'd been married for like 13 years, so they were married for a good amount of time, but they remained good friends. It was basically her decision. Alan was heartbroken. This is all just like background into Alan. Not all of this is relevant. It's just for you to get an idea of the kind of guy that he is. But he stayed good friends with his ex-wife. Alan loved motorbikes, and his most prized possession was his car, which was a 12-year-old Jaguar. It was his absolute pride and joy. Like, you would see him, like, buffing it up on the weekends and taking
I don't
really good care of
understand
it.
that.
Me
When
either.
men have a car that they love so much and they spend time, like, tinkering,
Yeah. Oh my
how
gosh.
much can you do to a car?
They
What
literally they'll take it out for a drive and they'll come home and like polish it, and you're like, why take it out for a drive if you really care that much about the way that it looks? I just don't
My
get it.
thing is the tinkering. I'm like, how eventually you're just taking things apart and putting it back together, surely, because
Yeah.
there's not that much stuff you can do to a car.
Yeah. Oh, do you remember when I was at yours like a few months ago and Jay dropped his bike and he was fuming? He was so fuming that he damaged the like some of these, like it scratched or something. I don't know. But
And he dropped the bike while cleaning the bike.
Yes. I'm sorry, Jay.
God.
It's not funny. It's not funny, Jay. I'm sorry.
It's hilarious.
I know
he
that he
spent
does listen to these.
£300 on like stickers for the bike.
Stickers.
Yeah. Ridiculous.
I literally don't spend £300 on anything.
No, I do, but just not stickers.
Alan Wood. So, loved his car, 12-year-old Jag. His social life revolved around his local pub, the Willoughby Arms, and his friends at the pub, who would pop by most evenings, have a pint, have a chat. You would see him like sitting at the end of the bar with his peanuts and his pint and just like sitting
That's
there.
what you said with his penis. I genuinely just thought you said penis. That was.
I might. To be fair, I might have done.
He was not sitting there.
He was sitting at the end of the bar with his pint and his penis. Peanuts. Sitting at the end of the bar with his pints and his peanuts. But he would also kind of like help out behind the bar on busy nights, participating in quiz nights on like the beer festivals, and he was just a wholesome member of the community. Everybody loved him. And so Wednesday, October 21st, 2009, it was no different. He went to his local Morrison's to do some shopping, and then he stopped by at the pub in the evening. He mingled with the regulars, had an in-depth conversation with his mate about X Factor, and downed a couple of pints, as per usual.
What year was this?
This was 2009. I don't know who was on X Factor in 2009.
X Factor. Let's see.
I should have checked this, shouldn't I? The X Factor winner was Joe McElderry.
So who was the runner-up? Ollie Murs? I don't remember Joe McElderry.
Yes, it was Ollie Murs.
I remember because my friend voted for Joe and I voted for Ollie Murs, and then Joe won and she was so smug, and then Ollie Murs became 10 times more famous.
And where is he now?
Ollie Murs?
Yeah.
So famous. He's like hosting shows, he still goes on tour, he's making albums. Where's Joe McElderry?
Yeah, but he was just a great singer. I still listen to his version of The Climb. You know? It's the climb. Yeah, he looks way different.
I listen to Miley Cyrus's version.
Oh my god, I'm going to have to save this picture and put it on the video. Alan Wood. So, he was at the pub with his penis.
He was at the pint with his penis.
He was at the pub having a pint, chatting with his friends, and he left around 6:30, which means it was probably back at his house around 7 o'clock that evening. On the Saturday 24th, so around 3 days later, a friend and a work colleague went to check on him because no one had seen him and he hadn't shown up for work, which was very odd. Like I said, he was
reliable, good guy.
Reliable, yeah, normal guy. And she noticed that the front door was slightly ajar. So she went round the side to the side of the house. Yeah, and the side door was also slightly open. So she felt uneasy. I mean, I would probably feel the same. She was like shouting out for him and he wasn't answering. So she just had this weird feeling. So she called his landlord and she asked for him to come down for his assistance. So they both entered the property and they were walking through the house, calling out for Alan's name until they entered the living room, and that's where they found his body. in the living room, face down and covered in blood. The police were called immediately, and it was such a small town that, I mean, I don't think they'd ever seen anything like this before. It was an absolutely brutal murder, and the level of brutality was unheard of in that area. He had been bound with 11 meters of sellotape. I don't know why it was so specific about 11 meters, but that seems
because I suppose with sellotape, if you were to wrap sellotape around someone's hands, you could just go.
Yeah.
But sellotape becomes really strong if you keep going. Yeah. So they're probably talking about the time. I'm guessing it's indicative of he was scared, so he wasn't fighting back, or he was unconscious, so he wasn't fighting back. It's just to show, like, that would take ages to do. Yeah. Would be my guess.
And it would be hard for him to have got out of it. He was repeatedly stabbed in the head, in the eye even, which was later assumed to be a way to torture him.
He was what?
Repetitively stabbed in the eye.
That's not a word.
Repetitively?
Repeatedly?
Repeatedly. He was repeatedly stabbed in the eye.
Don't do it again because I'm laughing. You can cut that bit out.
Repetitively.
Repetitively or repeatedly.
I definitely added in a syllable there, didn't I?
Yeah.
That's so embarrassing. Repeatedly stabbed in the eye, which was later assumed to be a way to torture him, but ultimately his cause of death was that his throat was slit and he bled to death. But the worst...
stabbed in the eye?
Yeah.
Oh, so he's still alive.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, it makes me feel so like... Ugh. But the worst part was that he had a really deep wound at the back of his neck, which looked like it was an attempted decapitation. But it wasn't successful, but they had obviously tried to take his head off. He was in his dressing gown, so although a time of death wasn't immediately determined, they thought that he must have been upstairs, maybe reading in bed before somebody came and knocked on his door or the attack happened. Just so wholesome. Like, he's in his dressing gown reading in bed.
I know my dressing gown.
I know. Don't go and answer the door. I can't do it.
I just did, but it was just the DPD man, so it's okay.
Okay, that's okay. What? There was no evidence of a struggle, so they thought, did Alan know his attackers, or was he just a nice guy that he didn't want to get hurt, so he was just
I just ask a question? So he was in the pub on, did you say the Friday night?
The Wednesday.
So the Wednesday night, and
they didn't find him until Saturday. Yes. Yeah,
okay, so later. Are they saying that he had died on the Wednesday night though?
They are saying that they think that the people came into his house on the Wednesday night, soon after he got home, but they can't know for sure whether he died on that Wednesday night or whether they kept him alive, stabbing him in the eye.
But it wasn't like they went in and he just died. He'd been dead for a day or two.
Oh, yes. Yeah. He'd been dead for a day or two. And there's some timeline bits that kind of hint at a time of death, but they never specifically said, we think that he died at this time. So we'll come back to that. It will make a little bit more sense.
But he was last seen on the Wednesday, and this is the Saturday?
Saturday that they found him. Yeah, so there was no evidence of a struggle. So they thought, did he know his attackers? Did someone knock on his door and he opened the door because he knew them? Or was he just a nice guy that was just naive and just thought nothing bad happens in this area? Or did they kind of like barge into his house and he just say, it's okay, like, I'll do what you want kind of thing? So there were lots of these kind of theories going around, but an early working theory was that at least two men barged through his front door and attacked him. They dragged him through the house, bound him with sellotape, tortured him, and left him to die.
But also, in an area like this, I don't think it would take much to get someone to open the door.
No, exactly.
I don't think he'd be assuming that it'd be somebody he didn't know, because if it's such a small little tiny area, you know everyone. Yeah.
No, it's true. Although in in, what is this, October? So it is starting, it would be dark at that time, really. So, but I guess a 50-year-old man, he's probably maybe not as worried about those kinds of things as you and I would be if you're living in a small town and it's dark
and you know everyone. I mean, I wouldn't answer the door without looking out the window or expecting someone first.
Yeah, exactly, for sure.
Plus, I have 2 dogs.
Yeah, and he would do absolutely FA. Like, she wouldn't do anything.
Oh no, mine would.
Yeah. Ollie would eat a human if they tried to come through.
If they tried to hurt me, he would rip you limb from limb.
He's like the sweetest snuggle bug, but he would eat you if anyone tried to hurt you, for sure.
I know. I love it. That's great.
Warning to everyone. Don't go to Catherine's house. Ollie will get you.
Yeah.
So they don't know how many people carried out the attack, but it was assumed to be more than one, purely because Alan was quite a big man. He was like stocky. They described him as like a big cuddly teddy bear because he was just so big, but also a teddy bear, which is just so sweet, and I can't believe this happened to him. But at the crime scene, they found fingerprints, they found fibres, although I couldn't find any info on what kind of fibres or where the fingerprints were. But the most significant clues were a size 8 footprints that were clearly of the Converse brand. The police worked with Converse in the US and to try and find the exact print that matched, and it led them to 2 styles of shoes that were largely sold in Europe and North America. You don't happen to have your thing, do you?
Yeah, I can grab it. Try it.
I mean, don't look at any of the other pictures, you spoiler.
I won't.
Just the pictures of the shoes.
There's also no pictures in. Oh, how am I meant to know?
The shoes. There are 2 shoes.
Okay. Oh, they're both hideous.
I know! Absolutely awful. And I thought, how many people are actually buying these awful shoes? And then I thought, in 2009, are people actually buying these? But still, I think they still would have been ugly in 2009. And so, as well as the footprints, the shoe prints even, there was also obviously so much blood around the property, and they took as many samples as they could. And you know what they found? They found blood that was not Alan's.
Alan's, right.
Yes. So with this sample, they were able to get a full male DNA profile, run it through all of the databases, but they didn't find a hit. No matches were found. They ran it in through at least 47 databases here in the UK as well as internationally, but absolutely nothing. And they also found a bus ticket from a local transport company called Delane, and they...
Delane. No, Delane. That's a rubbish bus name. Delane.
Where's the bus? It's in Delane.
That's so stupid. It's with the driver.
The driver.
The driver in Delane.
Oh no.
On the motorway.
It's on the bus lane. So stupid. I actually might cry a little bit. Oh, for goodness sake.
It's a terrible name for a bus, isn't it?
It really is. It really is. I can't. Oh, get it together, Rosie. Get it together. Oh. They determined that this bus ticket could not have been Alan's. He wasn't known to travel by bus or public transport, and local commuters and bus drivers just didn't recognise him. And as I said, it was a small community, so bus drivers would recognise him and whether or not he'd been on the bus, and they weren't familiar with him at all. So some people questioned whether or not this was all very sloppy, because obviously there was a lot of DNA, there was a lot of evidence left behind, but considering the level of violence, it would have been quite difficult not to leave anything behind. You know, like if you were really stabbing someone in the eye repetitively and using 11 meters of sellotape and repeatedly. What is wrong with me? If you're stabbing someone in the eye over and over again and using 11 meters of sellotape, I don't know, the whole thing was like they described it as a very frenzied attack. So not leaving any evidence would have been,
It's like
I mean, that would have
yesterday
been
when I was
impressive.
saying it was deliberate or
Mm,
versus frenzied. It's not deliberate. Like theirs is still deliberate, but like as in on purpose, but deliberate as in how you're doing it. Theirs
mm,
involves a lot of rage and it's a bit wild.
yeah, yeah. But anyway, so that was the crime scene. When the police started looking into Alan's life, they really couldn't find anything that would put him in the position that they found himself in. He was a normal guy. He had no skeletons in the closet, no dark past or anything like that was coming up to catch up with him. They looked into whether his work in the prison, remember I said that he was a gardener at the prison, had brought him into contact with the criminals that could do this. But like I said, everybody liked him. He didn't have a bad word to say about anyone else, and nobody had a bad word to say about him either. The police
And
got
also,
his
he's the gardener. It's not like he has any kind of sway in
anything.
Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's not as if anyone's going to blame him for them being in prison and withholding their pudding. I don't know. I don't know how these things work. But the police got his financial records, and they found that his bank cards had been used a total of 11 times from 11 to Sunday in both Bourne and Stamford, which are local towns to Lound.
From 11 till Sunday?
What is... I swear. Oh my God, I quit. Can I just send you my notes and you do this for me? What's wrong with me?
I do exactly the same. You just don't pull me up on it. I notice it during editing.
That's because my brain is just as broken that you say it and I just completely understand what you're saying. That's so messed up.
11 times to Sunday.
11 times from Thursday to Sunday.
Thursday to Sunday. Oh, so that kind of puts the timeline that he was dead by Thursday.
Yes. That's what I was going with before.
Yeah.
So they figured that he must have been dead before that, so there's also suggested that because they saw the man and it was obviously 11 times, but only 2 of those times were successful. So only 2 of those times did they get money out. So they thought maybe there were 2 men and one of them stayed there with Alan. The other one went out to check that he gave him the right pin. And then when they realised that the pin was bad, he could call and be like, no, that's the wrong thing, stab in the eye. And then he went back and got a different pin.
Believe you'd withhold the pin, though.
Well, no, that's the thing. Everyone said that. Everyone was like, they would have
just give up
given
your
him
pin.
any...
Yeah, he's not a rich guy. It's not like, whatever thousands he's going to lose is not worth it. I don't buy that. I don't buy that he wouldn't just give up the pin.
Exactly.
Unless they are just sadistic, and it's obviously they are sadistic, but
they are a little bit sadistic.
But I don't think it would be that the pin is wrong, unless he's just like me and just can't remember his pin unless he's typing.
Yeah, or unless they tell him that it's like 4-5 Thursday 8, then.
I think it starts with an L. I think it starts with an L for Lee, but after that I can't remember. No, Rosie, it's 4 numbers. I'm telling you, L.
It really took you a minute to understand my joke there, though, didn't it? You looked at me for a while, and then you like, why would your pin be 4-5 Thursday 8? I don't understand.
Oh, God.
Stop it. That's so stupid. But obviously, ATMs have CCTV cameras on them, don't they? So the CCTV caught this man and has footage of him, and there were stills that were released to the public. He's wearing kind of greyish coloured jeans, a baseball cap, a dark jumper, long sleeve jumper, and a striped scarf that's around his neck. There are a couple of shots of him, to be fair. They've got him at slightly different angles, but the quality of the CCTV, you cannot see his face for the life of me.
Why do they do this? Why
This is the same
do
thing
they...
as
Sabina
your
Nessa.
story. Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's the same level that you're at. When you go to take money out, it's the same place as the Asda checkout.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at that Asda checkout one, whew,
You can see every single pore.
4K.
So true. It's so true. Oh, it's so annoying. But no, they can't.
I
You
always look
cannot
the
for the life of you.
best in the Asda camera.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Flawless.
I wish I looked
also-
that pretty in every photo.
The lighting is really flattering. To be fair,
It's really flattering. Can they not put that flattering lighting on an ATM?
yeah. So then, at least if I get caught stealing something, they can be like, "It's this gorgeous woman," and everyone will be like, "Oh."
Or they'd
my
at
God.
least have a chance of catching the murderer who's stolen the bank card.
Yeah, that too.
Hmm.
Yeah, that too. So somebody else saw a suspicious man in Sainsbury's trying to use this ATM, and this person also gave a description. So with that, there's the the picture that they did. I don't know what this is. It's so ridiculous. You can look at it, but he's in the picture that they made like a, what is it called? I've got an EFIT written down because it seems that that's the English word for it, but I know that there's another word that they use in North America. What is it?
An impression?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll just call it an EFIT.
In my one that I'm doing right now, they call it the artist's impression. The composite.
Composite sketch. Yes, that's correct. Okay. So they created that with this person who saw him in Sainsbury's. And I mean, have a look at this face and tell me how you would describe
Right
his
now.
face. Yeah.
So this person does not look like a real person.
No.
The
His eyes
nose
are kind of sunken, don't they?
Yeah, his eyes look like a scary doll.
Mm.
They're kind of baby eyes, so they've made them droopy at the bottom like this.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, yeah.
His nose looks like one half has collapsed in from too much cocaine. His beard
Covers
is,
in his entire face.
yeah, as though someone's just drawn a Sharpie line from ear to ear and then filled it in with little dots.
Yeah.
That's what that looks like. So actually, it even goes up higher than that. It goes all the way up to his sideburns.
Yeah.
And
he also doesn't really have much of a chin.
No, he doesn't have a chin. It kind of just blends into the neck with all the stubble. And they've really screwed him over because they've given no definition to anything until they get to the under eye wrinkles. And then they've just gone to town on these under eye wrinkles. And she's like, no, he had no definition in his chin, none at all. What were his cheekbones like? Honestly, couldn't see him, couldn't find him. Okay,
But
is there
eyes
anything
were haggard.
but his eyes? Honestly, I could have carried home my little shopping in those bags. They were drooping. Crow's feet for days.
For days.
It's
so
like the
true.
crows had a little marathon around his eyes. And he's got tiny little ears. Yeah. So easy to find this man, if I'm honest. If this is what he looks like, he must stand out from the crowd.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
You'd walk past him and be like, he's dodgy.
You'd think, yeah, he literally doesn't have any facial structure whatsoever, but those bags.
Yeah.
Whew, yeah.
He's kind of like
That's
a really, really hungover and tired Mr. Blobby.
Yeah.
If you remember Mr. Blobby.
Of course. Yes, definitely. So they also gave out some kind of a description as well. They said the person appears to be 5'9" to 5'11" tall, who is dressed in a smart casual manner and appears to be wearing a distinctive striped scarf. He also had an unusual walk, and from further analysis, experts outside of the force analysed that footage and came to the conclusion that he limps due to his right leg being slightly longer than his left. They really just hated on this man, didn't they? So that is our prime suspect at the moment. And they also knew that he must have been injured at some point because there was blood at the scene. So, he was limping, bags under the eyes. injury, bleeding profusely. So, with all of this, they thought this must be financially motivated, right? They went in, tortured this man for his pins, and to get the money. But they only withdrew around £600. So
How much did
was
he have
that
in it?
really? I mean, it didn't say, but was it really worth it? £600 for all of that effort to really torture a man and try to decapitate him? It seems like overkill.
Well, you've gone for somebody single who lives alone, right? You don't know how long it's going to be till they get caught. You've got a limit of what, £200 a day. So is it Thursday, Friday, Saturday? And then
Well,
they
they
find
said
out
that he was only successful taking money 2 times. So
but he's
he must have
tried
had
a number of times.
Yeah.
So I just think maybe he had a higher limit of 300. Maybe it's not a case of that's all they went in for. Maybe it's just a case of that's all they could get.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a terribly thought out plan.
Well, yeah, exactly. But they also surmised that maybe they thought that he had more than he actually had, and so was it a brutal attack because they were frustrated that he didn't have what they wanted? But remember I said that he had a nice car, the Jaguar. Apparently it looked super expensive, but it was 12 years old. They said it was like an E-type or an E-class or something like that. But on the documentary that I watched, his friend said that it was probably only worth around £500. But I don't know if that's real because when I looked up an E-type Jag of that year, apologies if you're an actual car enthusiast.
Fanatic, yeah.
And I'm absolutely butchering what these cars are like. And I looked it up for that year that it would have been, because if it was 12 years old in 2009, then it would have been 97, right? And I saw there that it could be worth anywhere between 40,000 for an old battered model, up to like 230k for a pristine model. But I never saw anything else about whether or not the car was like taken or anything really. Like no one ever spoke about the Jaguar after that. So I don't know whether they saw that on the drive and thought, oh, this guy's wealthy, and then figured out that he actually wasn't, and so he got mad. But maybe they thought that the car was worth something and they were mad that he wasn't. Honestly, I don't know. It blows my mind. There was like a lot of these theories that were going around.
The friend said that it was only worth like 500 quid.
Yeah, exactly. But again, I don't know if that would be me and I see an older car that looks a little bit vintage and I think, piece of shit. No, I'm kidding, I don't. I'm sorry.
I do. If I saw a super old, but then he really is looking after it, so it's not battered and beaten up. So you would know that it's kind of I don't know. I know zero about cars.
Me either. But then if the motive really was just robbery, then why torture him? Why not just take what they could and run with it? Like everyone else, like you had said, that Alan would just have told them their PIN numbers, take the keys, just go with it. Just don't. He would have given them anything they wanted. They really didn't make much progress with finding suspects. The investigation moved quite quick because of how drastic the whole thing was. But in terms of moving forward with suspects and arrests, it did not. It just didn't happen. It wasn't until 2010, so December 2010 of the following year, that 3 or 4 men were arrested. But they were all released, and it didn't specify who they were. It didn't specify how they were connected. It didn't specify on what grounds. It said that there was one BBC News article that said that they'd been arrested, and then another one that said that they'd been just released. And those were the only arrests that I could find, and they led to nothing. So Sainsbury's, where he worked, they put forward a £40,000 reward for any information leading to the identification, arrest and conviction of Alan's killers. And the independent charity Crime Stoppers added £10,000 to the reward, bringing the total to £50,000, making it one of the largest offered in a UK murder investigation. So they thought maybe with that, people are going to come forward. People are going to start sharing their stuff. If it was financially motivated, then maybe there's someone
who knew.
Exactly. So aside from that, they figured that the sheer brutality of the attack suggested that it was someone that had committed crimes before. This wasn't someone that was just going in and it was their first crime. They kind of knew what they were doing, but they also thought that it was personal because of how brutal it was. But if this was a career criminal and it was financially motivated, then why did they not do their research into how much money he had or how much the car was worth? Or why did they leave so much evidence behind if they really were a criminal that knew what they were doing? It seems very sloppy in that case. But then also, why is there nothing to do with them on any of the databases? Because if they had left blood here, they could have left blood at another crime scene,
but equally,
or not been connected to it.
They don't have to be a career criminal for this to not be their first attack. Like, it could have been you start with a mugging, then a robbery, then a, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And it escalates. And then this was the first kind of violent one.
Yeah.
And they just thought, well, we're not getting much out of stealing these little bits. Therefore, we're going to go for somebody who we think is vulnerable, who clearly has a lot of money because of the car. Very habitual as well. It seems like he was the kind of person who was stuck in his ways. They would have been able to watch him. They would have been able to see what he did. They would have been able to kind of see and think, no one's going to be coming to him within the next hour or so. No one's going to interrupt us. So maybe it's not an escalation in the sense that they've always been violent. Maybe it's an escalation in the sense of how much money they're wanting to get out of it. And actually, in this one, they made a massive boo-boo because he wasn't actually rich.
Yeah, no, that's so true. That is true. But then I guess also with the decapitation, like, that's a lot as well. It takes it to a whole new level. It's almost
but
barbaric.
I just think once somebody can do that stuff, it's already like there's something. I don't know. For me, you've got to have a level of being a bit sadistic or not being squeamish and not being affected by those things. If you're able to even just go in and stab someone, or even just the fear that you instill in someone by holding them at knife point. It's not hard to imagine that somebody just takes that further.
Yeah, that is also true. That is true. But it's in the documentary that I was listening to, some criminologists even thought that it was almost psychotic to do all of that and then decapitate them after, and maybe even induced by drug use or alcohol, because it would just make them. Yeah, it just kind of builds it up so much more, doesn't it? Just that taking it to that new level. But historically, decapitation it's meant to send a warning to people. It's shown as sending a message about this is what happens kind of thing. But there was no message like that. It was just, I think maybe people looked into this more than needed. But it does almost seem like if the guy's already dead and you've slit his throat, it does seem like an extra unnecessary step to try and take his head off as well, But anyway, maybe that's...
It could be drug use, it could be, I don't know, morbid curiosity,
Yeah.
You want to see what it's like, you want to see... I don't know.
Yeah, it's so strange. It's just so mind-boggling to think about. And the criminologist that I heard talking about it and was reading about, they really went through in all of these details trying to figure out who it was and what kind of person would be doing this. And this is just kind of what came up a lot. But on the drug use point, they also kind of linked that to the fact that they were doing all of this awful, brutal stuff to Alan, and then they calmly went out to the ATMs and was just trying the PIN numbers and...
But also, were they not covered in blood?
That's the thing, again, is that if we don't know whether or not there were two people and that one of them was doing the attacking and then one other person was doing the going out with the money, or whether they changed, or they have no idea what the whole process was, and they think that there were at least two people, so perhaps they did have a change of clothes. You genuinely have no idea how the series of events unfolded, but they were so, in all the CCTV, they said that they were composed, everything was controlled, they weren't they weren't panicking or looking over their shoulders or looking particularly suspicious, you know. They were really calm with it. And so that further suggests mood swings, which further suggests drug use. The fact that they could go from being in a frenzied state of attacking someone to just calmly walking through the streets and, you know, getting some money out of the local Sainsbury's.
Or if it's two people, that's not the person who did the attacking.
No, but you're still a part of it. Like, if I knew that someone was at home attacking this man and I was using his pin, I would be looking guilty as heck, you know? Like, I would be looking over my shoulder.
I feel like we look guilty all the time. I walk through TK Maxx and don't buy something, and I'm like, oh my God, they're going to think I'm stealing, because maybe I should go and buy something just to prove it.
So true! Oh my gosh, so true. So after further interviews with his friends, people of the community, the police actually discovered that Alan paid for sex workers from time to time. He was super open about this. He would talk about it with his friends and family. It was just like a common thing, very blasé about the fact that
his family.
I mean, he had like 2 sisters and a mother, so.
That's not even just because it's sex workers. I'm talking sex in general. No, ew.
Yeah, talking about it with your family.
Don't talk about this stuff.
But could this have led him into a more dangerous world? That this was kind of, just linking him to more of like an underworld type thing. And at one point in London, sex workers were actually used to facilitate robbery. So they would kind of knock on the person's door and then other people would barge their way in to steal from the clients. Could this have been a similar situation that went wrong?
But I just think there'd be more of a pattern. I think they'd know. They'd be able to
find it wouldn't just be a single thing, exactly. And the woman would surely know if it was like a regular thing. They would know Alan. In such a small town, you'd think that there'd be like regulars and...
Yeah, but also if you ended up... So that woman would have to be in an area, right? She can't be spread out over the whole country every night.
Exactly, yeah.
It would be murder and robbery in a specific area... Same MO. They'd be able to link them together. I mean, how they'd be able to also start looking at how did he hire sex workers? You know, was this through a website? Was this whatever? Yeah. And if they were then able to find that out, then they'd be able to question her. I don't know. To me, that just seems like you're
reaching.
It's not even reaching. It's just I can't imagine that being a one-off thing, and it would be.
Yeah, no, but they figured after that they were thinking maybe did he cross the line? Was he too inappropriate with someone and offended someone on the one chance, and so they felt they need to get revenge or defend somebody's honour or something? But again, it was just a theory that was thrown around. So, but again, nothing ever came from that. The police suspect that the murderer would have known the area. The way that they were walking through town on the CCTV camera, they kind of walked with purpose. They knew where they were going. They often had their head down as if to like avoid the cameras from being able to see their face. Not that they would have been able to pick up anything more anyway.
Unless they went into Asda.
Exactly. And they also had the bus ticket, so they think that they must have known the area enough to be able to be getting on the local transport. They also said that he would have been comfortable using blades due to the nature of the attack. And criminologists in the episode that I watched, it was Donal MacIntyre, Unsolved, and he said that Eastern European criminals often use blades and knives in their attacks, and they're often known to be more frenzied in their attacks as well, which just comes back to why I thought it was so interesting that you said that those shoes remind you of ones that Eastern Europeans would wear. Many people from various different nationalities and communities came through the surrounding areas. It was the kind of place that they had kind of like different communities of different people. And so they thought maybe it was someone from these communities that has information and will help bring the guilty parties to justice. So it didn't specify what kind of nationalities, but they translated all of the information that they had into Czech, Polish, Russian, Albanian, Croatian, Hungarian, Latvian, Lithuanian, Slovakian, and Ukrainian. So
they are going Eastern European.
They are going all Eastern European. But they also figured that maybe this person isn't in the UK anymore. If it was someone who was from Eastern Europe and went back home, then perhaps that's why not they have kind of like come up on any other crimes or any other databases. But anyway, nothing more on that either. A final theory is that this was a case of mistaken identity. So police believe that he was not who they were looking for. They think that he maybe had more money than he did because of his nice car, and also it just didn't add up why it was so brutal for a robbery of just £600. But what they did say is that he looked a dead ringer for his manager at Sainsbury's. Like, even his friends said that his manager stood up and was there at his funeral, and people had to do a double take because they genuinely thought that that was Alan Wood that was there at Alan Wood's funeral. The only difference was that Alan wore glasses and his manager did not.
Can you not find photos of him?
I cannot. I can't even find his name. I know.
Oh, that's so annoying.
So frustrating. I couldn't even find a name. So they were thinking, was he the one that would have been targeted? And if they had just gone into Sainsbury's and they'd seen the manager and they'd been following the manager, and then they were waiting for maybe him to come out of work or waiting for him to see him around town, or maybe they did just accidentally follow Alan home one day instead of the manager and then knew that that was where he lived. But why would he be targeted?
Yeah.
Did he have like access to, I don't know, overnight safes at Sainsbury's that they thought they'd be able to get more money from?
What year are we in?
2009.
So was that more cash? Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been more cash based. Anything before COVID was cash, wasn't it? So if he had more access to cash, but he still wouldn't have been on like a crazy salary that would have meant that he was super rich.
No, but it could have been that they were getting information. I mean, it's still a very brutal thing to rob a Sainsbury's.
Yeah, so crazy violent. I just don't understand it. But as of right now, the police are no closer to finding out why he was killed. And they are no closer to finding out who did it. This is one of the most brutal unsolved murders in the UK in, like, recent times.
Does the £50,000 still stand for...
Yes, as from what I found, the £50,000 does still stand. As I said, they do have that full male DNA profile. So if the same person does commit a crime in the UK, it will automatically be linked. However, they are still constantly checking those European databases to see if anything comes up. But that is the lead that is most likely going to be able to progress it, hoping that something else comes up with it. Up until as late as 2021, there was an ongoing appeal to trace a Polish national called Paul Wojers. I had to Google how to pronounce his last name, so apologies if I absolutely butchered that.
Spell it.
It was WRZYSZCZ.
Great.
Yeah. There's not a single vowel, so I struggled. But I Googled it, and that was kind of what came up. So don't ask me to say it again. He was a car washer who worked at a local car wash that Alan was known to have frequented with his Jaguar. He wasn't a suspect. He's not a suspect by any means. They just think that he could have held vital information. But why he was a person of interest in the case was unclear. Nearly 20,000 interviews have been conducted throughout the course of this investigation, and the house remained a crime scene for 2 years, but then it was demolished in 2011.
Oh, good. I'm glad it was demolished.
Yeah? Why?
Because I just find sometimes with these crimes, they become a bit of like a place. And people become a bit, I don't know, like go and see it, and it's just a bit disrespectful, if I'm honest.
Yeah, no, I totally get that.
Everyone knows how much I love true crime, and everyone keeps sending me these serial killer exhibitions and like houses you can go and see, and I'm just not interested whatsoever.
Yes, it is just a bit disrespectful, isn't it?
I'm not there to think.
You're not making a show out of it. I mean, we are making a podcast, but like we're not making a...
I don't want to give them that
satisfaction. Yeah, that
Yeah.
platform. Yeah,
Platform,
No, I
that's the
totally get
word.
that. Yeah, no, I totally get that. And obviously, since 2009, forensic technology has advanced considerably since the murder. So they have been able to apply new forensic methods to things that they had collected from Alan's home. But I couldn't find any updates since 2021. And it doesn't mean that they're not still working on it. I'm pretty sure that they are still working, trying to find Alan Wood's killers. But it still just remains as one of the most brutal unsolved murders in the UK. So that's where we're at. If you recognise the chinless bag-eyed man, or
Know anything about it?
Know anything about Alan Wood's murder in 2009 in the town of Lound in Lincolnshire, get in touch with the police, Lincolnshire Police. I can probably get their number on here somewhere. I've got a tab open.
Probably Crime Stoppers, anonymous as well.
Hey.
Thank you so much. That's sad.
Thank you.
I don't like unsolved ones. They annoy the life out of me.
Yeah, me too. But
I
kind
hate
of gone
the
into a hole with this.
That people are walking around.
I know, and that's the thing, is that I know it's like it is just such the generic question, the generic line, but someone must know something. Someone does know something,
and they won't have kept their mouth shut. So they've said something to someone else.
Yeah.
Someone knows something, and I don't know, I just think you shouldn't be allowed to be wandering around doing whatever you want to do. Yeah, so that's annoying.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Happy Friday, team. Like I said, please go and follow us on everything and talk to us. We love to chat, as you can tell. Come and make fun of Rosie because she doesn't know the difference between numbers and letters. Oh, look who's just arrived. Come on then.
Is it a sweet baby kid? Sweet baby psychopath?
Okay.
She's like, yay, it's time. Okay,
I've got to
bye.
go, but I love you. Bye.
I love you. Bye.